Hello, Eternals. How are you?
Very good. Good to see you.
It is my pleasure to speak with you both, and I'm excited to dive in. And Salma, I'm going to do just that with you first. You've recently worked on a movie with Ryan Reynolds, who is Deadpool, and Samuel L. Jackson, who is Nick Fury.
You're brilliant.
Yes, by some Marvel stars and Nick Fury, Sam Jackson has been doing this longer than anyone else who's still doing it. So I'd love to hear, did they give you any advice on joining the Marvel family while you were working together?
Oh, it was terrible. Because no, it was terrible because when I was doing that movie, I had still sworn secrecy. And nobody knew. And they were all talking about their Marvel stuff. And, Deadpool, Ryan was asking him because now Deadpool
I love this. No, but I love this, that they're sitting around talking and you're sitting back thinking, I'm the leader of the Eternals.
No, but I was not sitting with that self-confidence. I was dying to brag. Oh, I wanted them to know so badly. I was not like smiling. I was like, oh, I wonder if I get fired if I just say to these two, and also because they were asking questions to each other because Deadpool wasn't, but now it is. And Ryan was entering and Sam is the expert. And I was just like, trying to listen and asking little questions and trying to learn. And then, so one day I'm sitting with Sam right after they were talking about it a lot. And he goes, so how much are they going to pay you? Or something like this, or also, which one are you? No, I didn't say anything. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, come on. I've been watching you when you're in a Marvel movie, but you don't want to say it because they told you not to say it's okay, I'm part of the family. It was incredible. He actually
like joining the mafia.
He picked up my nervousness to brag. Sorry, I talked too much.
That's really funny. That's brilliant.
That story was far better than anything I anticipated. That's amazing. I love it. Angelina, you've had your handful of really awesome badass roles in action films in the past. I mean, Tomb Raider, Salt, Fox. I mean, I've loved so many of your films. The list goes on. What kind of things did you learn from those roles? You applied to Thena, or was there anything that you were like, I've never had to do this before in anything like this, and you did it for the first time with Thena in Eternals?
Well, she was the most, because of the superpowers, there's things that aren't physically there, right? Tomb Raider is over. I was there's fantasy I've done, but usually I'm holding something physically in my hands or I'm physically fighting with somebody. So this was more of a stretch in that bigger space of every different weapon in my hand and every different, but I wanted her to be very, very female because of that. And so I took ballet for her and I wanted to ground her in something that was, because I believe that's where her strength comes from. And I didn't want her to be kind of like heavy in her boots and her muscularity and in her strength. I wanted it to be as female as possible. So that was different. And she's the most, it's funny, she's kind of the most, I guess, superhero, supernatural, but she's the most human.
Yeah, I
of
love
all
it.
The characters. She's
killed it in the action scenes. It was so cool. And the last thing for you both, your characters have been observing the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That means pretty familiar with a lot of Marvel heroes. Do you think there's anybody they're particularly impressed with or would like to meet?
Oh, wait, our kids or our characters?
Your characters in Eternals.
I think we're assuming that we know everybody because we've been around forever. So we definitely had the opportunity to be everywhere in every, we've been, I think that's the fun. Now, if you watch the other ones, we've been there. The question is, are there certain things that Fastos created that you've been watching and thinking it came from something else? Was it actually Fastos, or has somebody else been doing, did you heal something? Did something happen that you haven't realized we've been there?
And that's what we're going to find out in the future movies.
Great.
Work with Sam and Ryan again.
You should do something with Sam and Ryan. I'd like to see. Could you imagine Ajax and Deadpool would be just a very weird.
Yeah, that would be a very weird combination.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on being part of this awesome Marvel family. I can't wait for everybody to see Eternals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, how y'all doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Look, congrats on joining the Marvel Universe. Super fun to talk with you both about this. So I'm going to dive in. You two characters they have a relationship that very much drives the Eternals movie, but they also have these very big moments where they operate very independently of each other. So Gemma, I'd love to turn to you because this is also kind of an origin story, even though we're meeting characters with powers. How was Xerxes' kind of arc and journey pitched to you from the beginning? Where did you want to see her ultimately land?
Yeah, one of the first things we talked about was Cersei's arc in the film, because it's a bit of a coming of age story for her, really, even though she's thousands of years old already. She doesn't even really know the extent of her powers at the beginning of the film. She doesn't necessarily trust her instincts. She has a lot of doubt. But by the end of the film, she really comes into her own and she really learns to harness her power. And that was a really fun thing to explore.
You killed it in this role. It was awesome. Richard, you're playing a character who's very Superman-like in kind of his immortality, his power set. And I'd love to hear from you because it's really cool to see how those powers are brought to life in live action in the Marvel world. Was any of them more challenging to learn? Did you guys consider giving him more powers from stuff from the comics or removing powers because you like laser vision? Like, are they putting lights in your eyes so that reflects properly in the camera? Like, I just want to hear about all that stuff.
No, I mean, like with my energy beams in my eyes, that was one that you're kind of practicing going, does this look stupid? Or like, are these VFX guys going to make me look dumb? Or are we going and then they like such amazing jobs to make it look cool. And then the kind of same with your flying. You're like, I'm flying. I want to look cool, but I want to look like Peter Pan. Is this weird?
Okay.
But Gemma was always there to tell me when I looked dumb. And she often did. And that was a really good help because it stopped me looking stupid on camera.
I remember like talking about Tenet, and they like had to learn to blink backwards. So it's really interesting to hear that you had to make sure that you had the eyes right for energy vision. You know what I mean? That's cool. Gemma, Xerxes is a character who in comics has been an Avenger before, and I'm sure you've flirted with these ideas. But who are some characters from the MCU? Because you've already had run-ins with Captain Marvel in the past as an alternate character that you thought about would be fun to reunite with, that Xerxes might have a fun banter or alliance with and stuff like that.
It's so interesting actually, because obviously the Eternals have been on Earth for the last 7,000 years, so they could have had several run-ins with various different characters. But I actually really think that Cersei and Valkyrie would have a lot of fun together.
That would be a fun one. And Richard, I mean, this movie addresses where everybody was. Do you think it would have been a bit of a lopsided fight if they showed up against Thanos? Like, you think Icarus would have just put him away?
I don't know if Icarus would have been like, Icarus can sometimes be detached and be like, okay, what's this guy doing? All right, it's none of my business. I'll just stay back. So I don't know what he would have done.
That's funny. Well, listen, thank you guys so much for the time. I can't wait for everybody to get to see Eternals, and congrats on being a part of the Marvel family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Eternals.
Hello, Brandon Davis from Comicbook.com.
That's right. I mean, I brought the comics to really make sure you knew. You know what I mean? I wanted there to be no confusion. Kumail, I actually want to start with you here. You come into this movie, into Eternals, like a shot of life and energy, and it is so much fun to see you having fun with this role. And I also noticed, like, I'm picking up some of the rocks people's eyebrow. I'm noticing the superstar wrestler physique that you're rocking in this movie. What kind of action stars or people like that, did, if any, inspired your work as Kingo and your determination to deliver every bit of the character that you did?
Well, thank you for the very kind words. For me, I actually watched a lot of old swashbuckling movies because I wanted to see characters who were good at fighting who enjoy fighting. I wanted to see what that looked like. So it was a lot of like Errol Flynn, Zorro, that kind of stuff. And then I love Die Hard. And, to me, that movie action is amazing, but it's also very funny to sort of see how are you able to be quippy and be funny and vulnerable while being like in an action movie without like cutting the stakes, right? So how can it be that you're fighting and the stakes are real, you could die, but you're still finding time to be funny during that? What is that balance? And I think, Die Hard nails it. So those were my sort of touch points.
Dude, I love the energy you brought to the movie. And Lauren, I love Makari. Makari was so much fun. I can't wait to hopefully see more of Makari in the immediate future. I also love that there is a name sign for Makari. Did you come up with that? How did you guys all come up with the name sign for the character that you got to signal in the movie?
Actually, I did not do all of the creating myself. I worked with an ASL consultant who was brought on set, and that was actually my husband. So Makari, the reasoning behind that sign and where that came from, I don't know if you can see in the movie, but she has these fabulous earrings. And so that's where the sign starts, on her ear. And then this sign means fast, zoom, speed. And so we incorporated the two from her character traits. And so now I do want to tell you a little secret. So my husband, his name sign also starts from the face and goes down. His name is Douglas. And so it's also a kudos to my husband.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. That's so great. I also would love to hear, because I love how you have had back-to-back amazing opportunities, because I'm a Walking Dead fan, I'm a Marvel fan. How difficult was it to balance so much work at the same time between those schedules?
Oh. I'm not sure if I would even use that word balance. It was nuts. But I wouldn't be able to do it if it weren't for my team. My team did the balancing for me, and I just showed up.
Well, we are glad you pulled it all off. And Kumail, I'm going to come back to you, because I'm not going to spoil anything. We've learned not to spoil things about this movie recently. But your character discusses things like possibly having met characters in the MCU that fans have met already. I'd love to hear about the kind of process that went into that in developing. How much of a history between Eternals characters and other Marvel characters like the Avengers and others that we've met before did you guys develop and talk about and have fun with?
Yeah, so Chloe had it all mapped out, and she had a very specific sense of, because the thing is, Eternals have sort of been in hiding, right? So they haven't been going around talking to Iron Man and Captain America and all those people. They've been pretending to be normal human beings. But, it makes sense that my character would have met another character who's not from Earth either. I'm trying to be vague. I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not. So I think that was all part of the stuff, so that even though Eternals really is a standalone movie, you want to feel the presence and the reality of the rest of the MCU around it. And Chloe is such a nerd with an encyclopedic knowledge of Marvel and the MCU. So she was really excited about dropping these references there.
I love that. Well, listen, I want more of you in the MCU immediately. You both were so great in the film, and I can't wait for everybody to see Eternals. Thanks for talking.
I'm glad you liked it. Thanks for talking to us.
Eternals, what's going on?
Hey, Brandon.
Hello. Listen, really excited to have seen the film, excited for everybody to see it. I'm excited to talk about it with you. And Kit, I'm going to start with you. I'd love to hear about, joining the Marvel Universe. Was Dane Whitman the first and only character you talked about? And when you met Dane Whitman and heard about his legacy, did you ever have any kind of at-a-glance reservation of his similarities with Jon Snow?
Yeah, so it was the first time Marvel have spoken to me about any character, and this character, obviously there's a lot you can read on the internet about who he is or what his background is. As far as this movie goes, he's a human who's in love with Cersei and it represents humanity. As far as any future goes, I can't really comment on that, but I don't think there's any. I actually think there's quite a big difference between him and Jon Snow. There's not a lot of similarity there, which if there had been too much, I probably wouldn't have been interested.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where you take this man of the character you brought to life here. And Lia, your character is one character I think has kind of maybe the strongest similarities to comic book counterparts out of all the Eternals we meet in the movies, in terms of kind of wanting to grow up, the lengths your character is willing to go to achieve the goals. Did you dive into any comics at all for inspiration? Did you go strictly from the script? Did you learn anything if you did look at the books?
I did not read a lot of the comics. I think I might have read one when I was auditioning for the part, but I don't really remember it. Because the storyline is a lot different than the comics, as far as I know, because I haven't read the comics, I thought it was best to just focus on the film and the script and what I was discussing with Chloe about my character and the layers to her and her past.
Yeah, I love what you did with Sprite. And Don, your character, Gilgamesh, one of the most powerful characters in the group, but also uses the abilities to protect and show compassion rather than to use them in any brutal or ways to achieve power. I'd love to hear about how your take on why that is almost more powerful than just being able to take on these deviants or these terrible threats in any other way, using them compassionately.
Well, that is one of his character that actually Chloe wanted him look like a nice guy in normal life, but when he face against deviants, he becomes like real like warrior or fighter. That's what Chloe wanted. And then I thought it was a very good idea for a built-up character like unique character of Gilgamesh. Yeah.
Yeah. In the comics, he has a full face kind of mask and helmet. Did you guys ever consider having you wear something like that? That would have been a lot extra costume for you.
No, actually.
No. Fair enough. And actually, Kit, I have a costume question for you as well. I know you can't speak to the future, but Black Knight, when he gets those when Dane gets those Black Knight powers, he's got a brown leather jacket. He's got a very specific look. If push comes to shove, and that is the legacy we meet in the MCU, are you ready to rock an outfit like that?
I'm ready to rock any outfit. Whatever you want to put me in, you put me in.
I love it. Well, listen, thank you guys so much. I can't wait for everybody to see Eternals, and congrats on joining the Marvel family, everybody.
Thank you. Cheers.
Hello, Chloe. Welcome to the Marvel family.
Oh, thank you. Oh, look at your Nova.
Yes. Listen, when Nova makes it to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is going to be one happy camper right here.
I'm with you. Fingers crossed.
One of these days. But we have to talk Eternals, right? Yeah. I want to start. I have a coworker. His name's Jim, and he is flying home this weekend, in 2 weeks, to go see Eternals with his family, because it's the first time he can see a Marvel movie on opening night with his mother, who is hearing impaired, because it's available in closed captions.
Yes.
I would love to hear about how that, like, what goes into that. Is that a challenge to set up? Like, why do you think it took until now to make a movie like this available in that format right away?
Well, I give prop to Marvel. When I came into the process, they already have this deaf superhero written into the treatment. And then Lauren coming in, really, I completely rely on her to bring this character to life. And I learned so much about the things that I never thought is, the idea of deaf game, the idea of like, there's something that she is capable of doing and experiencing with the world that I don't have a chance to experience. And that's something so beautiful. And she also really is advocating this, like the experience of theatrical experience and not just relying on the box. There's a box where you read this. So it was very important for us to have closed captioning on the screen for the deaf community at our opening, and then also encouraging the theaters and making sure that they do that as well.
I love that that's happening. I think that's a really awesome move by you guys. As a comic fan, I caught several DC Comics references in this movie, and they're super fun. Are those does that get a little bit slippery? Like when you're trying to work in who we talk about, like, do they exist in comics form? Like, how does that all work?
Well, I take some responsibility for that. I think we're in the business of telling stories about mythology. And Superman, for example, come from origin of mythology in many different cultures. There's a form of Superman, and the people that created Superman and the brilliant filmmakers has brought Superman to screen in their movies are basically, in my opinion, doing a modern interpretation of that mythology. And Icarus is our interpretation of that mythology. It doesn't mean we can't pay tribute and have a good time with these iconic ones that we all love so much. I mean, who doesn't love Superman and Batman? So
exactly.
Clearly, our Eternals like them. So
I love that. There were with all Marvel movies, there's always rumors and theories and speculation leading up to it throughout production. One of the rumors that kind of gained some steam was that Thanos was going to appear in Eternals. And I loved to hear, did you ever consider having him in there? Or was there anything that you were like, oh, that's kind of close to what we're doing? There might be onto something throughout this.
As a fangirl, I love Thanos. Like he is one of my favorite. I feel bad, but like I'm kind of with him a lot of times, and I feel really bad when he became the dust in the wind. So of course I would love to, but it was a discipline of, I think, the team at Marvel and the Furples, who created the story with the team. We stand alone as a movie. It's important at this stage of the MCU to take a step back. And it's scary, and it's very brave for them to have that discipline.
Yeah, I love it. Well, listen, Chloé, thank you so much for taking the time to talk. It's a pleasure to speak with you. And I can't wait for everybody to see Eternals at the beginning of November when this one finally hits theaters.
Thank you.